morning, everybody. I am so
Right.
grateful to be here today with a person that wants to talk about some stuff, right? We got stuff to
Yeah.
talk about. So, everybody say hi to Liz. This is
Hey
Liz.
everyone.
Wait, your shirt says Girls Never Quit.
Yep. I love it.
Excellent shirt. So, tell us a little bit about you. Like, my understanding is Liz was Amish at one point. Like, you were
Yes.
born in, right?
Yeah, I was born in the Amish. I left the culture. It'll be 3 years this fall.
Uh huh.
So yeah.
So, what made you want to come talk today?
Um, just to have fun with you, fun with everyone else, and also to chat about the vocational class. So I was a vocational class teacher in my Amish culture, and I feel like a lot of people are not aware of what that is. So what that is the Amish children, they won't go to high school, but they still kind of need an education of some kind other than high school. That was the agreement between the court and the Amish when the Amish decided to pull their children out of the public schools. They did not want them influenced with that because it was considered worldly.
Uh huh.
So they kind of needed an education of some kind, so they had to have a 3 hour class once a week. So I
Okay.
usually have a class on a Monday morning.
Mhm.
And in that class, they were supposed to have a diary report of whatever they did during the week. Like they had to
Yeah.
have a certain amount of words, they had to write down the date, they had to write down the weather, and they had to report that at their class Monday morning. That was like one of the most important things. And then the other important thing was their German. You had to like read the scriptures in German that morning. You had to have German in class. So it was mostly just to report that they're working, that they're doing something other than just playing, I guess.
Or, working on the farm. So, a
Yeah.
fun fact about vocational schools also, good morning, Sarah. And good morning, look at the trees. I know you look so familiar and I know you, but I don't know who, I can't place your name right now. But good morning. And good morning. Yeah. So, what some
Pray
people
up on
don't
your end a little bit.
say, what some people don't realize about like Amish schools is so that some states they have different rules. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about vocational schools, and I was really excited to talk about that, is because when I lived in Pennsylvania, I know for a fact there was like one community that I lived in that they were like they had to do the vocational school thing. But
Mhm.
as many of you know, I lived in 5 different Amish communities. So in other communities, like the specifically, I know for a fact that the two communities that I lived in Wisconsin, we did not have vocational schools. We did not have that agreement with the state.
Yeah, so it mostly started from Lancaster County. And so that's just kind of been a Pennsylvania thing, I think. I have
Hmm.
never heard from any other states that do require the vocational class.
Right.
I do have some Amish cousins in other states as well. And I've talked to them already, like, do you have a vocational class? And they're like, no. And I was just kind of confused, like,
Right.
how do they get away with this? Here we are in Pennsylvania and we need these vocational classes. So I did study up, or I didn't really study up. I just kind of asked some questions about
Hmm.
it. And my dad just mentioned that the reason they do it in Pennsylvania is because it was the agreement with the state when they pulled the children out of public school.
Yeah. Yeah. Even Sarah says I live in 3 different communities in Wisconsin and none had that.
No, I have cousins in Wisconsin and they never had vocational
Yeah.
class.
Yeah, so that's again like one of the things that I want people to understand is like there can be different rules for different communities that even come from like civil government, like the local governing authority as far as like schooling.
Okay, what were
I
you?
say I was saying that there could be different rules that come from the local governing authorities, like the civil authorities. They can have different rules in different areas and states that
Yeah.
apply to like what type of schooling Amish kids get. But primarily, most of them get like an eighth grade education in a parochial school, right?
Yes.
So, what was your curriculum when you went to school?
Like the parochial schools or like vocational
Yeah,
class?
the parochial schools.
What we had was math, history, geography. We had health. We had. It's been so many years I can barely remember.
Uh huh.
Well, of course we had the German, and we had to do English too. That was another language. We did two different
Hmm.
languages, which schools don't really require two different languages, but we did.
Uh huh.
That was pretty much the more important parts of each lesson that we learned and each lesson that we had to do.
Hmm. See, we had to learn English. We didn't have any health classes,
Oh, okay.
and I actually went to one, two, three. I went to four different schools in PA, and we didn't have health classes in any of them.
Are you serious?
Yes. So that's
Yeah,
kind
we
of like
had health classes.
the
It
point.
wasn't. I don't know. We just basically learned the basics. It wasn't more like about your body parts or anything like that. It was more just what to do with a wound or what each body part is.
Gotcha.
I think I have poor internet connection over here. You freeze up every once in a while.
Yeah. Did you get the Amish internet today? I feel like that's what happened.
No, it's just like the hotspot off my phone.
Yeah. So, quick question. Like, how old, well, wait, how long did your vocational school last?
Well, you had to, once you were out of eighth grade, you had to go to vocational class until you were 15. So it's not like you went for just 1 year. You had to go until you were 15.
Okay. So, how, like, you became a vocational class teacher. So, what was the process like to become a vocational class teacher? Did you get that?
No, I didn't. It froze up just then. I was like, I bet she's talking.
Oh, I was talking. I was saying, so you were a vocational class teacher. Like, what was the process like to become a teacher?
Honestly, really nothing. You didn't have to have any training. You didn't have to do any kind of classes. You didn't have to be certified. Like, none of that. It was just like your regular school teachers. You were asked if you want to teach these kids, and I was like, yeah, sure, which we did that here at my house. And basically, you just kind of did how you wanted to. You set up your classes, you um, picked out the subjects, like which subject you want to do first and the next, and that's basically how it was. You didn't have to have any specific class to attend to become the teacher like that.
Okay. So, how old were you when you became a vocational class teacher?
I was 18 or 19, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you know that, like, teachers, when you became a teacher, like, did you know that you were supposed to be a mandated reporter?
I was not aware of that, no. Not until I was told I need to go to these CCI classes.
Oh, do
And that,
tell. Do
you want to talk about
tell. I'm sorry. That's
that?
So you went to the CCI classes.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
those were very interesting. To be honest with you, I was confused because I didn't understand it. Here, I didn't need any kind of training whatsoever, and all of a sudden, I'm like, well, you need to go to a CCI class because you're a teacher. And I'm like, what's that?
Okay. So now you had to go to the CCI classes
Yeah,
and now you all of a sudden needed some training, right?
yep.
Even though you didn't need training
I,
before,
I
right?
didn't need, I didn't need training how to teach these kids, but I needed training on that.
Uh, mandated, but what did it mean to you to be a mandated reporter? Like, did you know what a mandated reporter was
I
from
did
that
not.
class?
I did not. I've never heard of it before. I was not aware that you need to do that as a teacher. Um, but yeah, like I attended these classes. You had to do one once a year, and then you
Okay.
had to keep that report on file for 3 years. So
Okay.
basically, they handed you a copy of, I guess they would call it a handbook or something. It was just papers, and the
Mhm.
CCI board would read that off. He would have to stand in that class and read it off. Well, a bunch of teachers got together. So it's
Right.
not like he had to go to every school for that.
Right. But it was like a specific class with like teachers that
Yes.
got together and they had like a day and time set aside. And so then
Yeah.
all of you like had to sit there and listen to him read, or the person from the CCI, the guy from the CCI read and teach you about like, did they actually use the terms? So like, here's a question, because like I mean, we both know that there's ambiguous and vague language that Amish and Plain people often use to describe like abuse. So like, did they come right out and say that if as a teacher you suspect that a child is being abused, that you're required by Pennsylvania law to call the child line and report it?
No. So basically, what they did was they would read this off and no explanation, nothing. They would read exactly what was in that handbook. And instead of saying the word sexual abuse or sexual assault, they would use immoral abuse. I was very confused by that because that is obviously not the same thing. And
You can be
so, yeah, it
immoral
was
without.
a whole bunch of confusion trying to figure that out, trying to figure out exactly what they want me to do when I suspect abuse. But then, what you were supposed to do to report it, you had to go report it to one of the CCI board instead of reporting it to the. Did it ever get reported to the state? No. You would report it to the CCI board, and that's where it stayed, and nothing got done about it.
You know, Liz, did you see? Okay, did you see the report about the Mormon church where
I
there
seen it,
was.
but I don't think I read it.
Okay, so like, it strikes me as like just ironically similar. So the Mormon church, and I don't care that they want to be called LDS church because I just don't care. CCI stands for Conservative Crisis Intervention, whatever. They're whatever. But it strikes me that again, like, when an organization has no outside oversight or
Yeah.
accountability, and they create their own organization to
Yes.
assist, it is imperative that one, they are giving out appropriate information, but also information that doesn't lead to people potentially landing in even more hot water. Because it's almost like they were setting the Amish school teachers up for failure in some
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, totally.
Because as a mandated reporter in the state of PA, it is my understanding, and I really hope that one of my friends is watching this because I know she works in this field in PA. Um, if I really hope she listens to this and like at least
Yeah.
comments, but it is my understanding that mandated reporters are required to report it to Childline.
Yes.
Period. End of story. Done. There's no reporting it. To report abuse as a mandated reporter, it is not called reporting it to your ministry. It is not
No.
called reporting it to your church's organization. It is not called any other thing. You're required by law to report it to the law, or you as a teacher, if they find out that you did not file a mandated report and they can prove that, and I'm talking mandated to the state, not to the CCIs, and they can prove that you did not follow the appropriate law, they can charge you.
Okay, you froze again there. Sorry.
I was just saying that they can charge you. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can.
Gertie Zook says CCI reports to the bishop and they take care of it. I'm sorry. No. That's a hell no. We're not going to do that. We don't sin like that. Amish people should know better than that by this point in time. While
Yep.
it is a sin and the bishops may need to handle it from a church perspective, they are welcome to do so. And they can do that while that uh, SAer, that raper, is in prison. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
not sorry. No.
Yeah, those bishops definitely do not take care of it.
No, they do not take care of it. And if they're gonna come at it from like a we have to be concerned for this abuser's soul, okay, you can go minister to that person in prison. I'm sorry, not sorry.
I'm so sorry about this internet. It's being a pain in the ass.
You can, but I mean, like for real though, like it is mind-boggling. Like, do you know what the bishop did in my case? Have you ever heard about that, Liz?
I don't think I did. He probably just sat back in his comfortable chair and oh my gosh.
Oh my god. Yeah. Well, anyways, I don't know if I finished this like what they said, what the Mormon Church did. So for 27 years, the Mormon Church has had a helpline. And this is why I'm strongly against do not create a separate line for Amish and plain people. You're literally no, you don't get to do that. But the Mormon Church has had this helpline for 27 years, and there was a child rapist who went and reported himself to his Mormon bishop. The Mormon bishop calls the helpline. They have a lawyer contact him who tells him not to report it. He does nothing. That child was 5 years old.
Oh
That
my god.
child was 5 years old. This goes on. That child was SA'd by their sperm donor for over 7 years. He recorded it. He was online in internet chat rooms sharing all of that awfulness. And then she had a baby sister and he was assaulting the infant. The bishop cycles out, gets a new bishop coming in who he reports that to the new bishop who also does not report it. That child was 5 years old. This goes on. That child was so why do people think that Amish are immune to that type of action?
I just don't understand.
We're
I don't
we're just
understand how
people.
exactly.
Yeah.
I just wish people would stop looking at them as this perfect culture.
Well, I feel like people worship Amish people, and I'm
Oh
literally
yeah.
so sick of it. Stop worshiping us. We're not. No, We're just human
Well,
beings like the rest of the world who happen to grow up and live a little differently and have
so
different genetics. That's it. That's all we are. We're just human beings. Stop dehumanizing us and worshiping us. Ooh, Gertie, I feel like you just wanted to hear me go off about bishops. Oh, so regardless, let me tell you what my Amish bishop did. He, yeah, I wish I was lying. So I ran. It was February. I reported it
mhm,
in March. I reported the abuse in March. Okay. They arrested them in April.
okay.
The date, like right after they arrested them, I found out they put me into bond. And then
Excuse me.
this bishop, I shit you not, he talks to a reporter who writes an article. His name was Paul Levy, where the bishop is quoted as saying, I don't understand why I can't handle this myself. Oh, we shunned them. We shunned them for 6 weeks. Bravo. Bravo. You've shunned me for 18 and a half years. But hey, you shunned my rapist for 6 weeks.
Wow. And they think that's going to take care of the problem?
Oh, yes. That's absolutely. Woo! I'm sorry. That is why the bishops can't handle this. That is why the
Exactly.
CCIs are not qualified to handle this. They do not understand. They just they literally have such a lack of access to information to in order to be able to handle it appropriately that they can't even begin to understand or how to handle it appropriately. So, yes, Gertie, that was a wonderful, wonderful question. I mean, she said sorry, not sorry to throw that in. It was like mockery. Yes, that's why I'm laughing. No, I'm telling you. So, like, often, so like in the case of the Mormon church, like so the day after that article came out about
Yeah.
their helpline, the Mormon church is quoted as saying that, oh, well, they feel like their child helpline was like, or their abuse helpline was like misrepresented in the article. I'm like, how is that misrepresented? And then I was reminded of again, like this bishop was just like, oh, I just don't understand. Like, why do you why do you play the victim when you're caught? Why do you play the victim? You're not the victim. You literally enabled a child rapist to rape not one, but two children, and one of whom it occurred over a period of 7 years. And you don't have any form of like, you you don't even have compassion for the survivors of this crime.
It
It's
just blows my mind.
how do you deal with your internalized like just
And not just that, how can you go to sleep at night knowing there's a child in your culture that is being sexually abused over and over and over and over, and you
uh-huh,
don't do a thing about it?
uh-huh. So also, when do we learn as different religious organizations, when do we learn from the failures of each other and the successes? Because, you know, in my opinion, the CCIs at that point, when they're putting out that you need to report to them and they're not qualified to do investigations, because let's face it, how many of the CCI people have become trained detectives? Are they detectives?
No. To be honest
Exactly.
with you, I don't even know if they have any kind of training to do these classes. I have that question myself a lot. Like, are they actually?
So you can't have the blind leading the blind.
No.
You can't have the blind leading the blind. So that's kind of like, yeah. So, anyways, let's catch up on what some of the people are saying. So, here in PA last year, I took a bunch of teachers and school board members down to Lancaster for a mandated reporters meeting. On the way back, they were discussing numbers and who they were to call for abuse. And this year they went down again. The one school board member stated, "This is all new to us, but we have to report now." Who do
Wait,
they have
what?
to report to? The CCI? That's not reporting. That's called covering up abuse. And
Not just that. It's you're telling a man from your own culture about this
yeah,
who has
all
a lot
right,
of power and control.
exactly. So, no. Rachel Martin has a really good question. I gotta wonder how much of this problem is that the church basically keeps people ignorant of how to interact with government authorities and then uses that as an excuse why they need to be intermediaries. Oh, I think you hit the nail on the head. That is a pretty big problem because we are trained. I mean, many of us are trained to be afraid of civil authorities. That civil authorities want to take our children, right? They want to take our children. So,
Yeah.
why would we go seek assistance and support and resources from a group that we believe and have been taught our entire lives that wants to take our children away from us?
Yeah, it's all power and control. That's all they care about.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. Gertie says, there you go. That's what you need to expose. They do not take care of it. This is true.
Yep.
This is true. We have more sarcasm. I love it. I'm here for this, y'all. I'm here for this. Because it is a privilege to be born Amish. And, we were given this gift of being born Amish. And, that makes it so that what we're doing is like God is speaking through us through the ministry, and everything the ministry puts out is from God. And so, therefore, we have this hope. And I'm not saying that there's no hope for other people out
Mm-hmm.
there, but, we have the hope.
Yep. But then you can't either say that you're like saved or born again. You just have to like have hope, and I'm like, yeah, it don't make sense.
just just point it out. The one true religion, y'all. We were the one true religion. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And I'm not mocking Amish people, for those of you who
That's
feel like
literally
that's
what they
what's
say in their
happening.
sermons.
It is like we are literally taught that it is a privilege, and like what Liz says, like it is what they say in the sermons. There's no like, yeah, yeah. So anyways, here's another comment. They romanticize the Amish the clothing and stuff. Other than that, they know nothing about Amish atrocities. Okay,
Yep.
story time. You want a story, Liz?
Absolutely.
So, I have been crocheting myself a shawl. Okay?
Oh.
It's pretty big already, okay?
Mhm.
I've been doing all of this on TikTok lives because we got to get together to crochet so we can gossip, right? That's that's what we do. Anyways, I hop in this girl's live and I'm having this conversation because a friend of mine was in the live, and my friend's like, "Oh, she's awesome, like, you got to hear like what her platform's about." So I explain like, about like abuse and about genetics and how like, because they're like, "Well, are you still Amish?" And I was like, "Well, let me give you the genetics, because I don't really say that I'm ex-Amish. I say I was
Mhm.
born Amish because
Yeah.
like you can't take the genetics out of me, right? Like you can't it'll affect me for the rest of my life, like it just is. And so we get into this whole like eugenics discussion or whatever. And when I get done like talking about like Amish abuse and the genetics and how like, all of this needs to be race, we need to have race awareness, all of this.
Mhm.
This girl responds with, "Oh my God, I have all of this Amish furniture and I just love it." Okay. I just love it. And meanwhile, there's people in the comments who are literally telling her, "You need to go watch Sins of the Amish." And I just did this. I was like, and then I finally said, "You know what? I'm gonna invite you to go watch Sins of the Amish, and then I want to know how you feel about your Amish furniture after that." I gotta check up on that today. I gotta find out. Like, girl, like you can't just know. It's like it's like somebody was telling me, like somebody who was there was telling me that like it's like the equivalent of like if somebody talks about um how like there's somebody who is a chef and
Mhm.
he's a murderer or she's a murderer, right? So the chef, they are a murderer, right? And when you find out that that chef is a murderer, you respond with, "Oh, but he makes great sandwiches. Oh, but they make great sandwiches, and I'm still going to eat those sandwiches, and I love those sandwiches." It's like the same thing, right? Like you wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So why is it okay to do to Amish people when we talk about abuse awareness?
I don't know.
Don't worry though. I'm gonna check up on a bee and her furniture. I want to know. Did you ever encounter stuff like that?
Yeah, or I've even had people come up to me in public when I was still Amish, like, "Oh, you're Amish," and I'm like, "Yeah," which that question always annoyed me.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would make the comment, "Oh, I've always wanted to be Amish," and I'm like, "Yeah, you can join the Amish if you want to. It's not as cool as they say it is, but yeah, sure, try it out once."
Yeah. Well, I think part of the reason that I started talking about that is because I've heard from so many survivors of how like they'll start talking about like their abuse even with like mental health
Mhm.
professionals. They'll literally talk to mental health professionals and they'll be talking about the abuse that they experienced and they can't even receive appropriate services because these people are so fucking in love with Amish people that they can't even dissect themselves far enough from their love of Amish furniture to hear what their client is saying. And until that stops, I'm gonna use bad words for that because that is unfucking acceptable. We are human beings. And Rachel Martin has some great ideas. She says, "Amish furniture girl, here's the piece of advice for you. Read the room." Rachel, but this Amish furniture girl, she didn't go to Amish school, so she can't figure out what our facial expressions mean. That's what it is. Oh Lord. Y'all got any questions? You got anything, Liz?
um, can't think of anything right now. Except I hope her furniture's still standing.
Here's the thing. It's like I mean, it is unhelpful. I do think that going back to the whole like the teachers being mandated reporters thing, um, I think it's an atrocity. So to recap, what we learned from Liz today is that as an Amish vocational school teacher, first she was qualified to teach without any additional education.
Yeah,
Then
totally.
Say what?
I said, yeah, absolutely.
Then she was required, after a while, to go take a class from the CCI that she didn't understand because they used the terms immoral abuse
Yes.
that supposedly was giving her mandated reporter teaching and training to be a mandated reporter as a teacher. And I say supposedly because I have to question the validity of that training if she did not understand to whom she's actually required to report to by law. Because if you're being required to a church sponsored facility as a mandated reporter, that is not the law. That is actually breaking the law.
It is. And to be honest with you, I think, or I wish that somebody would just come in and just take these classes over. Somebody that is certified, that has the actual training to do it, and not just these men that really don't know what they're talking about.
Hmm.
That is the part
And
that really frustrated me.
and so, I mean, like, do do you have recommendations for them? Because, like, for me, I would like to see like actual outsiders because often the more light you shed upon a situation or situations like that, then um, whenever outside light is shed on it, it motivates people within the culture to create meaningful change.
Yeah.
We have a question. Hold up. Only men teach about this? Yes,
Yes.
that's my understanding. You say yes? Okay,
Yes.
yes. So
I've
it's
never had
only,
women in that industry.
yeah, only men teach about this.
Mhm. And that
And
should
they're
be another
teaching.
red flag.
Say again?
That should be another red flag.
Yeah.
Why is it only men? And another question that I always had is, we're doing these classes, but I never hear anything being reported. Like, why aren't we hearing any of that stuff? We're all doing these classes. Isn't anybody reporting? These were always my questions.
Well, on one hand, there's confidentiality, so if you suspect abuse as a teacher and you're a mandated reporter, there's the confidentiality, like you don't necessarily put it out there. You're not allowed to. You're
No.
supposed to keep that to yourself pretty much. Um, but then once you have it reported, there can be like certain repercussions, like if it is like depending on what the situation
Hmm.
is, like you will see like that people come in and they investigate that case, right?
Yes.
And typically when somebody comes in and investigates an Amish family, everybody in the community is going to know about that, right? Or am I wrong? Did you get that? Typically, when somebody investigates an Amish family, everybody in the community knows about that, right? Or wrong?
Were you asking me something because it froze up again?
Yeah, I asked you twice already. Oh, a third time's the charm. Typically, when when you report it, right? Like so there can be an investigation, but typically
Yep.
when there's an investigation into an Amish family in regards to child abuse, like everybody in the community is going to know about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a complete lack of like everybody's gonna know about it. That's just the way that it is. Like I've never seen a better gossip system than the Amish gossip system.
Yeah. News
They're
travels faster in their culture than it does on Facebook or any social
it
media
really
platform.
does. I don't understand it, but it really does. It is wild. So I think your question was just like why didn't we see those kinds of effects really happening? Did I freeze again?
Yeah, it's very annoying. It does it every once in a while.
Oh. I said so I think the question is so Why are we not seeing those effects that we would see in our community if they're being reported? Why are we not seeing that some people, because Amish people are just people,
True.
some of them commit crimes.
True.
So why are we not seeing them being treated that way if, like, the abuses that are suspected are all being reported?
Yeah, that was always my question. I've never
Yeah,
really understood that.
that's a good question. I love that question. Do you have any parting thoughts for everybody before we wrap this up? Do you have any parting thoughts for everybody?
Um, I don't really. If anybody has any questions, I'll go over the comments and we can respond to them. Or can't really think of
Mhm.
anything else to say. I feel like we covered everything, or we covered a lot.
Oh, we did cover a lot. Like, that's a lot. I just feel like that was like a lot. That's a lot of information.
It is, and it's like new information. You don't really hear about it as much. Like I feel a
Do you
lot of people are not aware of the vocational class.
Well, no, because I think about it. If you were born and raised in like Minnesota, in a Minnesota Amish community, like for example, you may not necessarily ever have even heard of vocational school unless you had cousins that had to go to vocational school. So it needs to be talked about a little bit so that people can understand the the differences between the different communities.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'd like to remind everybody that look, y'all are listening to something fueled by coffee. I'm probably back on the Wednesday night prayer list. I'm sure they wrote about me in the circle letters. I've accepted this is my future. I've really accepted this. And you know what? I'm worthy. Y'all are worthy. Y'all deserve to live
yes.
happy, healthy, and whole lives.
No
Have a
matter what
beautiful
anybody
week.
says about them.
Yep, that's it.